All right, happy Monday, guys. Happy Monday. Um, Forgive me for not coming on Friday. I don't know what happened. I forgot what happened, but I just didn't get a chance to get down here and get to reading down here. But I am back, and we're gonna read as much as we can on today. It looks like I have a little less than 30 minutes available of space, so we're gonna do what we can. So, Lord, I thank you for this day. I thank you for waking us up this morning. God, I just pray, Lord, that you have your way, Lord. Let your will be done. Bring those that are looking to grow closer to you. Bring them to my channel. Bring them to this video, God, and just have your way in Jesus' name. Thank God and amen. And if you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. My name's Melissa, and I've been doing my very best to come on and read for you guys every weekday, about 20-30 minutes, just depending on how much storage I have left on my phone. And I missed Friday. I was trying to get through a Second Samuel, but it looks like it won't be till tomorrow. So I'm gonna try my best to get as much in. And um, yeah. So I think. Oh, were we on 17 or 18? I don't remember. Oh, I don't remember. Let me see here. Let's see. You won't spend the night with the troops even now. Oh, I wish I would have looked to see. I think this is where I ended, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think. I don't remember. Uh, yeah, I think I ended here. So we're gonna start at 17, and if I already read it, then we'll just get a recap of where I ended last time. All right. So then Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Let me pick 12,000 men, and I will go after David tonight. I will attack him while he is tired and weak, and I will throw him into a panic. All the troops with him will run off. I promise to kill the king alone, and I will bring all the people back to you like a bride comes back to her husband. It's only one man's life you are seeking, everyone else can be at peace." This plan seemed excellent to Absalom and the Israelite elders. But Absalom said, "Call Hushai from Erech. Let's hear what he has to say as well." When Hushai from Erech arrived, Absalom said to him, "This is what Ahithophel has advised. Should we follow it or not? What do you say?" Hushai said to Absalom, "This time, the advice Ahithophel has given isn't right. You know that your father and his men are warriors," he continued, "and they are desperate. They are as desperate as a wild bear robbed of her cubs. Your father is a seasoned fighter. He won't spend the night with his troops. Even now he has probably hidden himself in one of the caves or some other place. When some of the troops fall in the first attack, whoever hears it will say, 'The soldiers who follow Absalom have been defeated.' Then even the bravest soldier, whose heart is like a lion's, will melt in fear because all Israel knows that your father is a warrior and that those who are with him are brave. So I would have advised that all the Israelites from Dan to Beersheba, a group as countless as sand on the seashore, be summoned to join you, and that you yourself go into battle. When we attack him wherever he might be, we will fall on him like dew that falls on the ground. No one will survive, not him, not one of the soldiers who are with him. If he retreats into a city, all Israel will bring ropes to the city, and we will drag it into a valley until not even a pebble of it will be found." Then Absalom and everyone in Israel agreed. The advice of Hushai from Erech is better than Ahithophel's advice. This was because the Lord had decided to counter Ahithophel's good advice, so that the Lord could bring disaster on Absalom. Hushai told the priests Zadok and Abiathar, "Here is what Ahithophel advised Absalom and the Israelite elders, and here is what I advised. Now send word immediately to David and tell him, don't spend the night in the desert plains. You must cross over immediately. Otherwise, the king and all the troops who are with him will be swallowed up whole." Jonathan and Ahimaaz were standing by at En Rogel. A female servant would come and report to them, and they would then travel and report to King David because they couldn't risk being seen entering the city. But a boy saw them and reported it to Absalom. So the two of them left immediately and came to a man's house at Bahurim. He had a well in his courtyard, and they climbed into it. The man's wife took a covering and spread it over the well's opening, then scattered grain over it so no one would notice. When Absalom's servants came to the woman at the house, they demanded, "Where are Ahimaaz and Jonathan?" The woman told them, "They crossed over the stream." They looked for them but found nothing, so they returned to Jerusalem. After they had left, Jonathan and Ahimaaz climbed out of the well. They went and reported to King David, "Get up, cross the water immediately, because Ahithophel has made plans against you." So David and all the troops who were with him got up and crossed the Jordan River. By daybreak, there was no one left who hadn't crossed the Jordan. Meanwhile, once Ahithophel saw that his advice hadn't been followed, he saddled his donkey and went home to his own town. He gave instructions to his household, then hanged himself, and he died. He was buried in his father's tomb. David had reached Mahanaim by the time Absalom and all the Israelites who were with him crossed the Jordan River. Absalom had put Amasa in charge of the army instead of Joab. Amasa was the son of a man named Ithra, an Ishmaelite, who had married Abigail, who was Nahash's daughter and the sister of Zeruiah, Joab's mother. Israel and Absalom camped in the territory of Gilead. When David arrived at Mahanaim, Nahash's son Shobi, who was from Rabbah of the Ammonites, Ammiel's son Mashir, who was from Lo-debar, and Barzillai the Gileadite from Rogelim, brought couches, basins, and pottery along with wheat, barley, flour, roasted grain, beans, lentils, honey, curds, sheep, and cheese from the herd, so that David and the troops who were with him could eat. They said, "The troops have grown hungry, tired, and thirsty in the wilderness." Then David gathered the troops who were with him and appointed unit commanders over thousands and hundreds. David sent out the army, a third under Joab's command, a third under the command of Abishai, Zeruiah's son, and a third under the command of Ittai the Gittite. The king told the troops, "I will march out with you myself." But the troops replied, "No, you must not march out. If we flee, they won't care about us. Even if half of us die, they won't care about us. But you are worth 10,000 of us. It is much better if you support us from the city." The king said to them, "I will do whatever you think is best." So the king stood beside the gate as all the troops marched out by hundreds and thousands. The king gave orders to Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, "For my sake, protect my boy Absalom." All the troops heard what the king ordered regarding Absalom to all the commanders. So the troops marched into the field to meet the Israelites. The battle was fought in the Ephraim forest. The army of Israel was defeated there by David's soldiers. A great slaughter of 20,000 men took place that day. The battle spread over the entire countryside, and the forest devoured more soldiers than the sword that day. Absalom came upon some of David's men. Absalom was riding on a mule, and the mule went under the tangled branches of a large oak tree. Absalom's head got caught in the tree. He was left hanging in midair while the mule under him kept on going. One of the men saw this and reported to Joab, "I just saw Absalom hanging from an oak tree." Joab said to the man who told him, "You saw this? Why didn't you kill him on the spot? I would have given you 10 pieces of silver and a belt." But the man said to Joab, "Even if I had 1,000 pieces of silver in my hand, I wouldn't touch the king's son. We heard what the king commanded you, Abishai and Ittai. For my sake, take care of my boy Absalom. If I had taken Absalom's life behind the king's back, then wait, oh, behind the king's back, then, though nothing is hidden from the king, you would have kept your distance from me." Joab said, "I won't waste time like this with you." He took 3 sticks in his hand and drove them into Absalom's chest while he was still alive in the oak. Then 10 young armor-bearers of Joab surrounded Absalom, struck him, and killed him. Then Joab sounded the trumpet, and the troops stopped chasing the Israelites, because Joab held them back. They took they took Absalom and threw him into a big pit in the forest. They piled over him a huge heap of stones. Meanwhile, all the Israelites fled to their homes. When he was alive, Absalom had raised a large pillar for himself in the king's valley because he said, "I have no son to carry on the memory of my name." He named the pillar after himself. It was called Absalom's monument to this day. Just a second. Then Zadok's son Ahimaaz said, "Please let me run and take the news to the king that the Lord has vindicated him against his enemy's power." Joab said to him, "You aren't the one to bring the news today. You can bring news on another day, but not today, because the king's son is dead." Then Joab said to the Cushite, "Go tell the king what you have seen." The Cushite bowed low before Joab, then ran off. But Zadok's son Ahimaaz again said to Joab, "I don't care what happens. Just let me run after the Cushite too." "Why do you want to go, son?" Joab asked. "You'll get no reward for going." "I don't care what happens. I want to go," Ahimaaz said. So Joab said to him, "Run off then." Ahimaaz ran off, going by way of the plain, and passed the Cushite. Now David was sitting between the 2 gates. The watchman on duty went up on the roof of the gate by the wall. He looked out and saw a man running alone. The watchman called out and reported this to the king. The king said, "If he's alone, it's good news." The man got nearer and nearer, and the watchman saw another man running and called down to the gatekeeper, "There's another man running alone." The king said, "The one must be bringing good news too." The watchman said, "I can see that the first one runs like Zadok's son Ahimaaz." "He's a good man," the king said, "and is coming with good news." Ahimaaz called out to the king, "Peace," then bowed low before the king, his nose to the ground. He said, "Bless the Lord your God, who has delivered up the men who raised their hands against my master the king." The king said, "Is my boy Absalom okay?" Ahimaaz said, "I saw a large crowd right when Joab, the king's servant, sent your servant off, but I don't know what it was about. Step aside and stand right here," the king said. So Ahimaaz stepped aside and waited. Then the Cushite arrived and said, "My master the king, listen to this good news. The Lord has vindicated you this day against the power of all who rose up against you." The king said to the Cushite, "Is my boy Absalom okay?" The Cushite answered, "May the enemies of my master the king and all who rise up against you to hurt you end up like that young man." The king trembled. He went up to the room over the gate and cried. As he went, he said, "Oh, my son Absalom! Oh, my son Absalom! If only I had died instead of you! Oh, Absalom, my son, my son!" Let's see how long this chapter is. Hmm, about 15 minutes. I think we can read this one. Joab was told that the king was crying and mourning Absalom. So the victory that day was turned into mourning for all the troops, because they heard that the day that the king was grieving for his son. Wait. So, so the victory that day turned into mourning for all the troops, because they heard that day that the king was grieving for his son. So that day the troops crept back into the city like soldiers creep back ashamed after they've fled from battle. They, the king covered his face and cried out in a loud voice, "Oh, my son Absalom! Oh Absalom, my son, my son!" Joab came to the king inside and said, "Today you have humiliated all your servants who have saved your life today, not to mention the lives of your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your secondary wives, by loving those who hate you and hating those who love you. Today you have announced that the commanders and their soldiers are nothing to you, because I know that if Absalom were alive today and the rest of us dead, you would be perfectly fine. It would be perfectly fine with you. Now get up, go out and encourage your followers. I swear to the Lord that if you don't go out there, not one man will stick with you tonight, and that you will be more trouble and that will be more trouble for you than all the trouble that you've faced from your youth until now." So the king went and sat down in the city gate. All the troops were told that the king was sitting in the gate, so they came before the king. Meanwhile, the Israelites had fled to their homes. Everyone was arguing throughout Israel's tribes, saying, "The king delivered us from our enemies' power, and he rescued us from the Philistines' power. But now he has fled from the land and from controlling his own kingdom. And Absalom, the one who we anointed over us is dead in battle. So why do you say nothing about bringing the king back?" When the things that all the Israelites were saying reached the king, David sent a message to the priests Zadok and Abiathar. "Say the following to the elders of Judah. Why should you be the last to bring the king back to his palace? You are my relatives. You are my flesh and bones. Why should you be the last to bring the king back? And tell Amasa, aren't you my flesh and bones too? May God deal harshly with me, and worse still if you don't become commander of my army from now on instead of Joab." So he won over the hearts of everyone in Judah as though they were one person, and they sent word to the king, "Come back, you and all your servants." So the king came back and arrived at the Jordan River. Judah came to Gilgal to meet the king and bring him across the Jordan. Gera's son Shimei, the Benjaminite from Bahurim, hurried down with the people of Judah to meet King David. 1,000 men from Benjamin were with him. Ziba too, the servant of Saul's house, along with his 15 sons and 20 servants, rushed to the Jordan ahead of the king, to do the work of ferrying over the king's household and to do whatever pleased him. Gera's son Shimei fell down before the king when he crossed the Jordan. He said to the king, "May my master not hold me guilty or remember your servant's wrongdoing. That day my master the king left Jerusalem. Please forget about it, your majesty, because your servant knows that I have sinned. But look, I am the first person from the entire family of Joseph to come down today and meet my master the king." Zeruiah's son Abishai responded, "Shouldn't Shimei be put to death for that? For cursing the Lord's anointed?" But David said, "My problems aren't yours, you sons of Zeruiah. Why are you becoming my enemy today? Should anyone in Israel be put to death today? Don't I know that today I am again king over Israel?" Then the king told Shimei, "You will not die." And the king swore this to him. Mephibosheth, Saul's grandson, also came down to the king. He hadn't taken care of his feet, trimmed his beard, or washed his clothes from the day the king left until the day he returned safely. When he came from Jerusalem to meet the king asked him, Mephibosheth, why didn't you go with me? My master and king, Mephibosheth answered, my servant abandoned me. Because your servant is lame, I asked my servant, saddle a donkey for me, so that I can ride and go to the king. So Ziba had slandered your servant to my master and king, but my master and king is a messenger of God. So do whatever seems best to you. Even though all the members of my grandfather's family were nothing short of demonic toward my master and king, you still put your servant with those who eat at your table. So what right do I have to beg for still more from the king? You don't need to talk any more about this, the king said to him. I order you and Ziba to divide the property. Mephibosheth said to the king, let him take all of it, since my master and king has come home safely. Now Barzillai the Gileadite had come down from Rogelim. He accompanied the king to the Jordan River to send him off there. Barzillai was very old, 80 years of age. He had supported the king during his stay at Mahanaim because Barzillai was a very wealthy man. The king said to Barzillai, come over the Jordan with me. I will provide for you at my side in Jerusalem. But Barzillai said to the king, how many years do I have left that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? I am now 80 years old. Do I know what is good or bad anymore? Can your servant taste what I eat or drink? Can I even hear the voices of men or women singers? Why should your servant be a burden to my master and king? Your servant will cross a short way over the Jordan with the king, but why should the king give me such a reward? Let your servant return so that I may die in my own town near the grave of my parents. But here is your servant Shimham. Let him cross over with my master and king and treat him as you think best. The king said, okay, Shimham will cross over with me, and I will treat him as I think best. And I will do for you anything you desire from me. So all the people crossed over the Jordan River, and the king stayed behind. The king kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and then Barzillai went back to his home. When the king crossed over to Gilgal, Shimham went with him. All the troops of Judah and half the troops of Israel escorted the king across. Then everyone in Israel came and said to the king, why did our relatives, the people of Judah, steal you away and bring the king and his household across the Jordan River, along with all of his soldiers? Then all the people of Judah answered the Israelites, because the king is our relative. Why are you angry at us about this? Have we taken any of the king's food? Has he given us any gifts? But the Israelites answered the people of Judah, we have 10 shares in the monarchy. What's more, we are the oldest offspring, not you. So why have you disrespected us? Weren't we the first to talk about bringing back our king? But the words of the people of Judah were even harsher than the words of the Israelites. All right, so we're going to end there for today, and I think we'll be able to finish this tomorrow. I really think we'll be able to make it through. Yeah, so that is it for today, guys. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. If you have any prayer requests, you can leave them in my comments, or you can email me if you prefer. My information is in the description box. There is a playlist if you would like to go back and start listening to the word from the beginning. I did start at Genesis and just went on through. We're just kind of taking it day by day. So that is it for today, guys, and until next time, be blessed and be the reason someone smiles. Bye.